My name is James Carter, and the day my company celebrated my 40 years of service became the day I finally accepted that my only son no longer saw me the way a son should see his father. The ballroom inside the Columbus Convention Center was packed with executives, co-workers, retirees, and community guests. As the lights dimmed, the host stepped onto the stage with a warm smile. "Today," she announced, "we honor a man whose honesty, loyalty, and dedication helped shape this company for 4 decades." Behind her, giant screens displayed photographs from every stage of my career. There I was in the mid-1980s wearing an oversized hard hat on my first day. Another picture showed co-workers who had long since passed away. Then came company picnics, charity events, retirement parties, and countless moments that quietly told the story of a lifetime spent serving others. The audience applauded, but my eyes never stayed on the screen for long. They kept returning to one empty chair in the front row. A white name card rested on it. Ryan Carter, my son. The camera caught me looking at it, and within seconds the entire room understood what that empty seat meant. The host walked closer and gently asked, "Mr. Carter, would you like us to wait a few more minutes?" I smiled and slowly shook my head. "No." She hesitated before asking, "Would you like someone else to sit beside you?" I looked toward the back of the ballroom and saw a young man standing quietly in a simple navy blue suit that had clearly been pressed with care. "Daniel," I called. He looked surprised. "My late best friend's son. Come sit with me. Your father would have been in that seat if he were still here." Daniel slowly walked down the aisle and sat beside me. "I wouldn't have missed this," he whispered. I placed a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you for coming." A few minutes later, our CEO returned to the microphone. "There is one final surprise," he announced. I frowned because no one had mentioned any surprise. He explained that years earlier I had refused several executive bonuses and asked the company to create a fund that would one day reward loyalty, character, and selfless service. Then he smiled. "The first recipient has already been chosen by James Carter." Daniel looked confused. "So today, Daniel Brooks will receive the very first Legacy Gratitude Award, worth $800,000. The ballroom exploded with applause. Daniel stood frozen. I think there's been a mistake." "There hasn't," the CEO replied. I simply smiled and squeezed his shoulder. "You earned every dollar." 3 hours later, I sat alone inside my old pickup truck outside my small ranch house. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. When I finally checked it, there were 112 missed calls. Most were from my son Ryan. The rest came from my daughter-in-law Ashley, distant relatives, reporters, and numbers I didn't recognize. I turned the phone face down, because the story the country had just witnessed hadn't started that afternoon. It had begun 6 years earlier, after my wife Linda died. Before cancer took her, we had built a simple but happy life, filled with backyard cookouts, church on Sundays, family camping trips, and quiet evenings together. We never chased luxury. We believed money was meant to provide security, not attention. After Linda was gone, everything changed. I became quieter. Ryan became more distant. At first, I convinced myself it was normal. He had a career, a marriage, and responsibilities. I never expected him to visit every week. I only hoped we'd still be father and son. Instead, our conversations slowly became excuses. "Dad, maybe next weekend. Dad, work is crazy. Dad, we'll catch up soon." Weeks became months. Months became years. Whenever Ryan visited, Ashley always seemed eager to leave. She was never openly rude, but spending time with me felt like another task on her calendar. Little by little, Ryan stopped making his own choices. If Ashley wanted something, it somehow became his opinion too. He stopped asking me to go fishing. He stopped watching football with me. Even birthdays turned into short text messages. I never complained. Good parents don't keep score. But 3 months before my retirement ceremony, The company announced they wanted to celebrate my 40 years of service with a televised event. It was far more attention than I ever wanted. Still, there was only one person whose presence truly mattered to me: my son. At that moment, I had no idea that one phone call, just 24 hours before the ceremony, would change everything. The afternoon before my retirement ceremony, my phone rang. Ryan's name appeared on the screen. Something about it made me uneasy before I even answered. "Hey, Dad," he said cheerfully. "Everything all right?" I asked. "Actually, Ashley found an incredible last-minute vacation package. A luxury resort in Scottsdale. We leave tomorrow morning." Tomorrow morning. The same day as my retirement ceremony. I stood quietly by my kitchen window, looking at the maple tree Linda and I had planted decades earlier. "I thought your ceremony was later in the day," Ryan said quickly. "We'll celebrate with you next week." "You haven't left yet?" I asked. There was a brief silence. "No, but the flights are booked." In the background, I heard Ashley's voice. "Tell him he'll understand." Ryan lowered his voice. "We've both been working hard, Dad. Ashley really needs this vacation." For a moment, I closed my eyes. Then I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. "I understand. You're not upset?" "No," I replied calmly. "I'm 70 years old, Ryan. I've learned not to waste time being angry." We ended the call politely. But after the line went silent, I remained standing there with the phone in my hand. Linda had always given me one piece of advice whenever Ryan disappointed us. Never make important decisions while you're hurting. So I didn't call him back. I didn't argue. I didn't try to make him feel guilty. Instead, I scrolled through my contacts until I found another name: Daniel Brooks. He answered almost immediately. "Mr. Carter? I have a favor to ask." "Anything." There wasn't even a second of hesitation. "My son won't be attending the ceremony tomorrow." Daniel became quiet. "I'm sorry. I don't want to sit there alone. Would you be willing to come?" His answer came without excuses. "It would be an honor." His words tightened my throat. "Your father would be proud of the man you've become." "I hope so," he whispered. Daniel wasn't just the son of an old coworker. His father, Michael Brooks, had been my closest friend for nearly 30 years. We started working at Franklin Industrial Systems only months apart. We built our families together. Our wives became close friends. Our sons spent their childhood throwing baseballs across our backyards. Michael had the kind of laugh that filled an entire room. No matter how difficult life became, he always found a reason to smile. Then one day, everything changed. A pressure valve exploded during a maintenance shutdown. Within seconds, the factory filled with steam, twisted metal, and screaming alarms. I couldn't see. I couldn't breathe. Before I realized what was happening, Michael ran back into the danger instead of escaping. He grabbed me and dragged me across the concrete floor. Doctors later told me another 30 seconds inside that building would have killed me. Michael never called himself a hero. He simply shrugged whenever anyone thanked him. You would have done the same. Maybe I would have. Maybe I wouldn't. I'll never know. Years later, cancer slowly took the man that the explosion couldn't. The night before he died, he asked everyone to leave his hospital room except me. He reached for my hand. "Look after my boy." "I promise," I answered. Those were the last words he ever spoke. Daniel was only 19, too young to lose his father, too proud to ask for help. He worked evenings stocking shelves, attended college during the day, and delivered pizzas on weekends. Whenever I offered him money, he always refused. "I'll figure it out." So I found other ways to help. I introduced him to people who repaired his old truck for almost nothing. I helped him find affordable housing while he finished college. When he graduated, I sat proudly in the audience because I'd made a promise to his father. Instead of becoming an engineer, Daniel chose another path. He became a public school robotics teacher. Many people thought he was wasting his education. I thought he was honoring it. Every Christmas he mailed me a handwritten card. Every birthday he called. Whenever something around my house needed fixing, Daniel somehow appeared carrying a toolbox before I even asked. That was simply the kind of man he had become. The next morning, I arrived at the convention center early. Daniel was already waiting outside in his only navy blue suit. Before we walked inside, he handed me a small gift bag. Inside was a simple leather journal. On the first page he had written, "Some people earn promotions, others earn respect. You taught me the difference." For several seconds, I couldn't speak. I finally looked up and smiled. "Your father would be proud." Daniel's eyes filled with emotion. "I've spent 20 years hoping to hear you say that." Just then my phone vibrated. Ryan had posted a new vacation photo online. He and Ashley stood beside a luxury resort pool, smiling with drinks in their hands. The caption read, "Finally enjoying the vacation we deserve. Life is short." I quietly locked my phone, slipped it back into my pocket, looked at Daniel, and smiled. "Ready?" He nodded. Neither of us knew that before the day ended, one unexpected announcement would change all of our lives forever. The ballroom was filled with more than 400 people by the time the ceremony began. Executives, factory workers, retirees, reporters, and community leaders, all gathered to celebrate a career I had never imagined would receive so much attention. Daniel sat beside me, looking as though he wished he could disappear into the crowd. "Relax," I whispered. He smiled nervously. "Speaking to teenagers is easier than this." The lights dimmed, and a video began playing across giant screens. 40 years of memories flashed by in minutes. My first day at the factory, company picnics, volunteer projects, Christmas parties, and a photograph of Linda smiling beside me. Then came a picture of 7-year-old Ryan, wearing an oversized hard hat, proudly announcing that one day he wanted to work beside his father. My chest tightened. Life had taken us somewhere neither of us expected. When the video ended, our CEO, Richard Holloway, stepped to the microphone. He spoke about the promotions I had declined because I refused to move my family away from Ohio. He reminded everyone that I had quietly turned down executive bonuses so the company could invest in something that would outlive my career. Then he invited me onto the stage. As I accepted the Lifetime Legacy Award, he smiled. "James, today you brought a special guest. Tell us about him." The cameras turned toward Daniel. I looked at him before facing the audience. "His name is Daniel Brooks. His father, Michael, wasn't just my coworker. He saved my life during a factory explosion many years ago. Before cancer took him, he asked me to look after his son. I never replaced his father, but I've watched Daniel grow into the kind of man every parent hopes to raise." The room erupted in applause. Then I added quietly, "If anyone deserves to be sitting in my son's seat today, it's Daniel." Many people stood with tears in their eyes. Just when I thought the ceremony was over, Richard returned to the microphone holding a folder. 12 years ago, James Carter asked us to create the Legacy Gratitude Fund. He opened the file and read words from a letter I had written long ago. "Money disappears. Character doesn't. Help one good person, and they'll spend a lifetime helping others." The ballroom fell silent. Richard smiled. Today, that fund has grown to $800,000. Gasps echoed through the room. He looked directly at Daniel. James was given the honor of choosing the very first recipient. Daniel slowly stood. "Daniel Brooks, this award belongs to you." For a moment he couldn't speak. "I can't accept this." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "You already have. Your father once saved my life. You've spent the last 20 years honoring his memory by serving others. No one deserves this more." The audience rose to its feet once again. Hours later, after the ceremony ended, I finally returned home. My phone was flooded with missed calls. Ryan, Ashley, reporters, relatives. The story had spread across television and social media faster than I ever imagined. Finally, I answered Ryan's call. "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" "You never asked. I replied. There was a long silence. I should have been there. Yes, I answered softly. You should have. Ashley suddenly grabbed the phone. You embarrassed us in front of everyone. I remained calm. No, Ashley. The empty chair didn't embarrass you. Your own decision did. She accused me of replacing my own son with Daniel. No, I said quietly. Ryan replaced himself. That night, Ryan came to my house. Ashley arrived angry, but Ryan looked broken. He apologized, yet I asked him one question. Are you sorry because you hurt me, or because everyone else saw you hurt me? He had no answer. I disappeared into the spare bedroom and returned carrying 3 old storage boxes. Open them. Inside were tuition bills I had secretly paid, wedding expenses, mortgage papers, photographs of Linda and me sacrificing our own comforts so Ryan could have every opportunity we never had. The final box contained every handwritten letter Linda had ever written to him. One sentence stopped him cold. No matter how old you become, never forget that time is the greatest gift you can give someone you love. Ryan broke down in tears. For the first time in years, I knew he finally understood what he had truly lost. While Ryan struggled to hold back his tears, someone knocked on my front door. It was Daniel. He carried a box filled with homemade soup, fresh bread, and apple pie. I figured nobody remembered to eat today, he said with an embarrassed smile. Ryan watched something I don't think he'd ever noticed before. Daniel knew exactly where my plates were. He knew which cabinet held the coffee mugs. He even remembered that my old coffee maker needed the switch pressed twice before it worked. Not because he lived there, because he had quietly been showing up for years. Ashley couldn't take it anymore. She stormed out of the house, furious. Ryan didn't follow. Instead, he stayed for dinner. The following weeks were different. He called every morning just to ask how I was doing. Soon those calls turned into visits. One Saturday, he brought 2 old fishing rods and asked if I'd spend the day with him at the lake, where I'd taught him to fish as a little boy. That day, he admitted the truth. I spent so much time chasing success that I forgot the people who mattered most. I smiled gently. Forgiveness comes quickly, son. Trust takes longer. He nodded. I'll earn it. And he did. Meanwhile, Daniel used nearly half of the legacy fund to create scholarships for students interested in robotics, engineering, and skilled trades. Instead of keeping the spotlight on himself, he used it to change young lives, just as his father once changed mine. Months later, the company invited me back to launch a new mentorship program inspired by the Legacy Gratitude Fund. When I walked into the auditorium, the seat beside mine wasn't empty. Ryan was already there. I wanted to make sure I got here early, he said with a smile. Daniel sat on my other side. One young man was connected to me by blood, the other by a promise. Looking at both of them, I realized something I would never forget. Family isn't held together by money. It's held together by gratitude, loyalty, forgiveness, and the choice to keep showing up for the people who love you. As we walked toward the parking lot after the ceremony, Ryan stopped beside my truck. Dad, thank you. For what? For loving me, even when I made it difficult. I placed my hand on his shoulder. Being your father was never the difficult part. He hugged me tightly. For the first time in years, it truly felt like my family was whole again. Not because money changed anyone, because humility, second chances, and love finally did what pride never could. And if there's one lesson my life taught me, it's this. Never wait for the perfect moment to appreciate the people who quietly sacrifice everything for you. Time is the one gift none of us ever gets back.